Hello everyone and welcome back to All Things Marine Life, and a very Merry Christmas Eve to you if you celebrate. Today we're unwrapping a very festive little creature, the Christmas tree worm. They've got bright, spiral plumes that look just like mini Christmas trees swaying in the ocean currents. Seriously, they are some of the most colorful and fascinating worms you'll ever see. In this video, we'll talk about how these worms make their homes inside coral, how they feed, reproduce, and why they're so essential to the reef ecosystem. So let's deck the reefs with plumes so jolly. Fa la 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 worm. Christmas tree worms, scientifically known as Spirobranchus giganteus, are a type of Polychaete worm that lives on coral reefs throughout tropical waters around the globe. They're called Christmas tree worms because of their trademark twin spiral plumes, which looks a lot like tiny festive fir trees. Each worm sports a pair of these trees, which are actually made up of feathery structures called radioles, used for both feeding and for breathing. So while they may seem like purely decorative materials, they're actually life-sustaining tools. They're also part of the tube worm family, meaning they build protective homes or tubes in hard substrates, in this case, coral. So how does a worm end up living inside coral? Well, these worms secrete a calcareous material, a hard limestone-like substance, to form a tube. They'll either bore into the coral itself or take advantage of living coral tissue that eventually grows around them. Once they find a snug spot, they tend to stay put there for the rest of their lives. Because they're literally cemented in place, they can't just pick up and move if the neighborhood gets rough. If a predator or a scuba diving paparazzi gets too close, these worms do the next best thing. They retract lightning fast into their protective tubes, popping out a little trap door, called an operculum, to keep themselves safe. It's like slamming the door on an unwelcomed guest, only it's underwater and way more dramatic. Let's talk about these fancy Christmas tree plumes. At a glance, they first look like ornamental fans, but they're actually multitasking masters. They use it for filter feeding. Tiny food particles like phytoplankton drift by in the ocean's currents. The worm's feathery radioles catch these morsels, and mucus secreted on these structures traps the food, and special cilia transports it down to the worm's mouth. Big particles or non-food items like sand get sorted out and discarded, or sometimes the worm uses those sand grains to reinforce its tube. Respiration. Much like how gills work, these radioles also help with oxygen exchange. Think of them as a worm's personal set of mini lungs swirling around in the current. It's kind of like wearing a single outfit that's a combination of dinner plates, straws, and oxygen tanks. I mean, talk about efficient fashion. Like many marine invertebrates, Christmas tree worms have separate males and females, no asexual reproduction here. They release eggs and sperm into the water, hoping the currents will do the matchmaking for them. When fertilization happens, a sperm and an egg unite, tiny larval worms form. At this point, those larvae float around like holiday confetti, eventually landing on a new piece of coral. Then they start building their tubes like a young couple starting construction on their first home. Once settled, they stay put and they'll grow into the festive adults that we adore. Now let's sprinkle in some fun facts. Colors galore. Christmas tree worms come in every color of the festive rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, blue, white, you name it. If you're a scuba diver, spotting them can feel like finding a living kaleidoscope under the sea. They're very sensitive to vibrations. They're extremely quick to retract if they sense motion, shadows, or vibrations. If you're snorkeling and see a bunch of little trees suddenly vanish, you've just spooked an entire worm condo complex. They're related to other tube-building polychaetes like fan worms and feather duster worms. So if you've ever seen those big flower-like tubes on rocky reefs, you're looking at some of their extended family. In recent studies, marine biologists have been analyzing how Christmas tree worms might help coral growth. Some research suggests that their presence on reefs can aerate certain parts of coral or remove excess sediment, potentially giving corals a small advantage in crowded reefs. Healthy reefs are the backbone of so many ocean ecosystems, and Christmas tree worms are part of that diversity puzzle. By filter feeding, they help clear the water of excess plankton, and by building tubes, they add to the structural complexity of the reef. However, coral reefs globally are under stress from climate change, pollution, and overfishing. When the coral suffers, these worms lose their homes too. Preserving vibrant reefs isn't just about saving fish or corals, it's also about safeguarding the thousands of tiny creatures like our colorful Christmas tree worms that call those reefs home. Since it's Christmas Eve, I couldn't think of a better critter to feature. These little guys are basically the perfect underwater holiday decoration. Next time you're diving or snorkeling in a tropical reef, keep your eyes peeled for bright spiral plumes peeking out from coral. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, well, let's just say these spiral worms still put on a show year-round. Their resilience reminds us that life under the sea can be delicate yet incredibly vibrant, much like the holiday spirit we feel this time of year. Thanks for joining me on this special holiday edition of All Things Marine Life on Christmas tree worms. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this dive into the festive side of the ocean. I'm wishing you all a joyous holiday season, whatever and however you celebrate. Merry Christmas to those who celebrate, and I'll see you all next time for incredible stories with All Things Marine Life. Happy holidays, everyone.